Welcome to Straight Back Talk, a podcast where I cut through the confusion, I bust myths, I give you the unfiltered truth about your neck pain, your back pain, your disc injuries, and how to avoid surgery if possible and live a pain-free life. I'm Dr. Jeffrey Garofalo, a practicing chiropractor of 23 plus years. I have certifications in spinal biomechanical engineering. I have a mini fellowship in neuroradiology. I'm published in the National Institute of Health, and I'm a candidate for a fellowship in primary spine care. I've also written this book right there, Never Look Back, a simple guide to the cause and care for your back pain. That's just what I'm here to do, help you look forward so you don't look back. Today's topic, chiropractors are quacks. That's right, I'm a chiropractor and I'm considered a quack. Is it true? Obviously not. Today we're going to talk about where it came from. This is going to blow your mind. You want to stick around, you want to pay attention to this because there's a book out there. It says, The Medical War Against Chiropractors, J.C. Smith. And what this book is the court hearings and all of the depositions and all of the information when the American Chiropractic Association took the American Medical Association to court. And we took them to court and we won, but out of that came some challenge. And the challenge that came out of it was chiropractors are quacks. So let's jump into this podcast. Where did it come from? We're going to talk about some thoughts and some theories and things like that after we talk about where the quack come from. So they called him the Medical Mussolini, the head of the AMA at the time in the late 20s. Head of the AMA was consolidating all of the medical field. And again, this is not theory. You buy the book, you read the book, it is court documents. This is all in here straight from the court. So none of what I'm about to say is made up. This is true. So late 1920s, Medical Mussolini, the person in charge of the American Medical Association, was consolidating healthcare fields. He said, dentistry, we want you. Podiatry, we want you. Psychology, we want you. Psychiatry, we want you. And we're starting to engulf all these professions underneath the American Medical Association and a medical license. And they tried to do that to chiropractors, and chiropractors stood up for themselves and said, we don't want to be under a medical license because we're not practicing medicine without a license. And the AMA said, if you don't follow and we absorb you, you are practicing medicine without a license. And chiropractors said, well, we're not practicing medicine. Medicine is writing the script, we go get the medication, and chiropractors said we're doing things non-medicinally, so we're not practicing medicine without a license. And the AMA said, oh, you better believe you are, so we're going to try to engulf you. At the same time, the AMA went after some Scientologist named L. Ron Hubbard. Now, this podcast has nothing to do with whether you like Scientologists, whether you don't like Scientologists. Again, this is the truth. It's a crazy story. So the AMA goes after L. Ron Hubbard, the Scientologist, and said, you are practicing psychology without a license. And L. Ron Hubbard said, I am not, and they became a church. That is how it's known as the Church of Scientology today. L. Ron Hubbard became a church of Scientology to avoid being engulfed by the American Medical Association. If they were a church, they were left alone. So they become the Church of Scientology, and they're helping people psychologically at the time, and years go by. Again, chiropractors still being attacked by the AMA because the chiropractors would not say we're practicing medicine without a license. Some of them were going to jail. They were being harassed, and it was horrible. Right? So it was horrible. You got to practice chiropractic, helping people naturally with neck pain and back pain and things like that in an underground avenue, getting results with people, but the AMA was attacking. And so the Scientologists didn't forget this. And so they did something very unique. They planted a spy. Yes, a spy. You cannot make this stuff up. I'm telling you, get the book. If you want a great story of espionage and craziness, The Medical War Against Chiropractors. It is the real life story of chiropractic and how we became known as quacks. So, again, the AMA is attacking chiropractors, and they had a plan. They formed a committee called the Committee on Quackery. I don't make this up. And I'll tell you how we know this in just a few moments. So the AMA says, okay, look, everyone else has said yes, we're engulfed. Scientologists, they became a church, leave them alone. But the chiropractors, they're still not bowing down and becoming part of the AMA, so let's push harder. And so they had a plan. We're going to engulf you, we're going to denounce you, and then we're going to say it was all our idea. So what they do is they start denouncing chiropractic as they are fake doctors, they are quacks, and if you associate with them as medical doctors, you would be denounced from the hospital system and you would be thrown out of the club. And so they form a committee on quackery to do just this. And some of their tactics were crazy. Some of you might remember Dear Abby or Ann Landers. Ann Landers was a pen writer name. She wrote under Dear Abby in newspapers across the country. Some of you might remember Dear Abby. For those of you who don't, in today's day and age, Dear Abby or Ann Landers, she would be an influencer today. And so people would write in from across the country and say, I'm thinking of bringing my mother to a chiropractor. She's got severe neck pain. What do you think? And the national rebuttal would be, don't go see chiropractors. They're quacks. They're going to hurt you. They're going to give you an injury. You're going to be in pain. You're going to hurt worse. They're not real doctors. And all this stuff just started pouring down. They're not real doctors. They're going to hurt you. All this information. It was just Dear Abby across the country, like an influencer getting on today and just millions of followers. And now all of a sudden you've influenced somebody to go, ooh, I don't think I want to do that. And so they had this whole plan of making chiropractors seem like they're quacks, seem like they're fake. They had public newspapers. They had medical doctors talking out against them. And it started to affect chiropractors. And so, again, we go back to the Scientologists. They actually put a spy into the AMA headquarters in downtown Chicago. Now, those that you are old enough to remember Watergate with Richard Nixon, remember the spy's name was Deep Throat. Well, the spy's name that the Scientologists put in the AMA headquarters was Sore Throat. And Sore Throat was a janitor that would clean up at the end of every evening. And unfortunately for the Committee on Quackery, they would meet and some of them would crumble their stuff up and throw it in the garbage without shredding it. And so this spy, as we would call it, would grab the garbage. And once he had enough information, he compiled all of it, he took it and he dropped it on a chiropractor's doorstep in Chicago named Dr. Wilk. Now, Dr. Wilkes gets this information, can't believe it, has this right on his doorstep that this is why we're being called quacks and why we can't get a step up is because we don't want to conform. We don't want to say, look, we give prescription meds. I'll be honest, it's not what we do. I have total respect for those that do because it's their world, it's not our world. We just choose not to be there. But we didn't want to say, hey, we're practicing medicine on a license. We're not. We're practicing chiropractic by hand, with our mind and our hand, getting results. Great. So this information gets dropped on the doorstep of Dr. Wilkes in Chicago, and he's like, holy cow, wow, what do I do with this now? So Dr. Wilkes goes to a gentleman by the last name McAndrews. McAndrews is an attorney in Chicago, big-time attorney in Chicago, who decides to take the case on. Why does he decide to take the case on? This story gets better. His father was a chiropractor harassed years ago by the AMA. So he is, look at this. This is perfect. So he takes all this information, and we fast forward many years later, and the AMA is found guilty of conspiring to create a plot against chiropractors. They're guilty. They're found guilty. And the AMA, the chiropractors, we win big. And you know what we win? $1 stinking dollar. That's all they asked for was $1, and to put it out in the public that, hey, we're not quacks, we're great doctors of the spine. And the problem was we took the dollar and nothing ever became of it. So the damage was done because the AMA, they wanted to engulf us. We didn't want to be engulfed. We're not practicing medicine without a license. We're using our hands and our minds, and we're practicing on the spine. We're getting people well. They went after the Scientologists. Scientologists planted the spy. Again, you could read it out of this book. It is amazing stuff. Plants a spy, gets all the information, and we find out in all the court depositions. They put Ann Landers, they put her, Dear Abby, Ann Landers, on the court, and they said, on the chair, and they said, people would write into you, and they'd ask you a question, and you would answer like this. Did you have any knowledge of chiropractic, and why were you answering that way? And in the book, in her deposition, she says, I had no knowledge of chiropractic. I would defer off to the AMA, and they would give me my answers and responses, and I'd put it in the paper. Kind of like our influencers today. Who can you trust, right? So because of Ann Landers and the medical doctors at the time, they were trained, dislike chiropractors, knock them down, engulf them, knock them down. Today, we're seen as quacks. And that's just not the case. See, here's the deal in our clinic. Let me share with you the deal in our clinic and who we are and what we do. There is a cliff here, there's a canyon here, and there's a cliff here. On this side, you have neck pain and back pain, and your primary spine care physician is right here. The problem is they're not heavily trained in musculoskeletal. They're not. They'll admit it. Their curriculum is not heavily trained in musculoskeletal. So with neck pain and back pain, you go and see them. And they say, look, I'm going to put you on a muscle relaxer and maybe some prednisone, and if that doesn't work in 4 weeks, come back. So you get on medication. Sometimes it feels better, sometimes it doesn't. And then 6 weeks later, if the medication wears off, you're still in pain, neck pain or back pain. So you go back to the doctor. The doctor says, I can't help you from this point forward. Go to physical therapy. Now, physical therapy is great, but it is not primary for spine. Research shows that chiropractic is 300% more effective than just physical therapy alone. And I love physical therapy, we use it in our clinic. But you go to a physical therapist, and if the spine is out of alignment, and we work on muscles to strengthen or stretch them, is going to do nothing long-term for the stability of the structure, spinal biomechanical engineering long-term. So maybe you go 4 to 6 weeks and it feels a little bit better, but then if you don't change the structure, the spinal structure, and you stabilize it based on x-rays and MRIs, then you're hurting again. You go back to the doc here and he says, look, or she says, I don't know what else to do. Let's jump the canyon and let's go to the orthopedics. Now, on the other side of the canyon, here's the primary care and the physical therapy. They say, look, we're done with you. Jump the canyon, and now we're going to go to the orthopedics. And the orthopedics are great at surgery when surgery is necessary. So now you go and see the orthopedic, and if they're very good and ethical, they'll say, look, this isn't a surgical case. If they're unethical, and there's plenty of them out there, just like everyone else, they're going to say, let's do surgery. And these people we've seen have been just a disaster. Unfortunate. So the ethical ones say, look, I'm going to put you on some more medication, some different medication. If that doesn't work in about 4 weeks, come on back. So again, you take the medication, symptoms go away, but we don't solve the spinal biomechanical problem. Comes back to the doc and says, hey, I'm hurting again. He says, finally, or she says, finally, we're going to pain management. Think about that. We're going to manage your pain for the rest of your life. Pills, injections. The problem is we're never getting to the core issue, the biomechanical inefficiencies, the misalignment, the forward head posture, the rotation, the torque of the pelvis, the disc pump not pumping, things that we look for in our office. So now we go to pain management, and ultimately we spend enough time here, we go back here, and they said, okay, now let's do surgery, and then 74 to 80% of the back surgeries are called failed back surgeries. So now you've gone from here, jumped the canyon to here, and 74 to 80% of the times we're still no better. In our office, we are not quacks. Chiropractors are not quacks. In our office, we are trying to be the one in the middle of the canyon. Primary spine care doctors non-surgically. That when you go to, we can do x-rays, MRIs, study them, find out structurally where and why you're out of alignment, the patterns that caused it, change the patterns of bending, lifting, and twisting and lifestyle, change the physicalness of the spine with hands and device, create an environment for proper function and motion in the spine from top to bottom, because life is motion. Things that don't move decay and die. So you must know where you in alignment, out of alignment, which discs are affected, which nerves, which muscles. Put it all together in this canyon right here as a primary spine care doctor, which I am, my team are, and know, hey, look, based on our diagnosis, this is something we're going to handle, or we need help. We need the orthopedic, we need the neurosurgeon, we need a neurologist, we need your primary care. And that is what we do within our clinic. We are primary spine care. I'm a candidate for a fellowship in primary spine care, which I'll have at the end of 2026. At that point, we tell patients, we've got this completely, we need some help, or hey, you now need surgery. And as a primary spine care non-surgical chiropractor, that in our office is who we are. We are not quacks. We read our own MRIs. We read our own x-rays. We send to the orthopedic. We have team relationships. Why? Because our goal is to be the very best non-surgical spine, and sometimes there is surgery required, and to get you to the best surgeon for the best possible outcome. Right now, every single patient that we have sent to our orthopedic for surgery is 100% success. Why? Because we don't just jump the canyon and go there first. We're not quacks. We don't prescribe medication. But let me ask you a question. If you have physical misalignments, and that spine is not working physically from top to bottom, why would I want to give a chemical to solve it? It's like putting a pebble in your shoe, leaving it there, and then taking an aspirin for the rest of your life. Just because we don't prescribe medication makes us a quack? We read x-rays, read MRIs, we make physiological change with our adjustments in our physical therapy and rehab, and then we work with the orthopedics, the neurosurgeons when necessary. There have been times, I'm going to share, RB came to my office about a month ago. Called up on a Monday. His wife was excited to get a hold of us. I answered the phone. I was at home. She had my personal cell phone number because she was referred in from 2.5 hours away. RB, wife calls, says, my husband has back pain and weak legs. I said, okay, no problem. How long has it been going on? Well, it's been going on for months, and has had back surgery. I said, okay, well, then here's what we want to do. You're going to come to the clinic. We're going to get you an MRI, because with the surgery, I want to see what's going on. To see is to know, to not see is to guess, and we don't guess. So get the MRI. She brings in an MRI. She comes in on a Tuesday the following day. Says, hey, walkie-talkie in my office. A new patient is in the parking lot, needs help. Husband trying to get out of the car. My doctors are busy. I said, I'm going. I get to the car. RB, who supposedly has back pain and weak legs, can't get out of the seat. We have to pull him by this belt that his wife's been using to stand upright. He locks his legs and he sits in a wheelchair. And I said, this isn't right. Weak legs is not this. So we bring him into the clinic. We do a thorough examination, full set of x-rays, orthopedic, neurologic examination. I push down on his shoulders because his legs aren't just weak, they're almost non-functioning. I mind you that they had already talked to the orthopedic who had done the surgery, who said, you know what, just go to physical therapy at this point, because we've done the surgery at this point, just more time. Did physical therapy, didn't work. We're weeks later and legs aren't functioning. So I push on the shoulders. If there's any chiropractors, medical doctors, DOs, physical therapists, they would know why I'm pushing on the shoulders right now if both legs were weak. If you know, put it in the comments. Why would I push on the shoulders and the shoulders are fine and the upper strength is fine? What was I looking for? Cervical myelopathy. Cervical myelopathy, not there. But he's got upper motor neuron lesions. His reflexes, they're jumping in the lower half. And it's just, they're called hyperreflexive with zero muscle tone in his legs. Like something's going on in the central nervous system here. So I said, look at the MRI, look at the nerves, because we read our own MRIs. In our clinic, we're not quacks. Read our own MRI, and I said, the nerves are being pinched at every level, but something else is going on here. It's not in the neck. I need you to go back to the MRI facility. I need you to get an MRI of your middle back. ASAP, stat. She says, absolutely, Dr. Jeff. They went down there, got an MRI, came back, bring me the CD. I put it in. At 5:45 that evening, I found and discovered the problem. He had a massive, massive, massive disc herniation, crushing. I don't mean abutting and touching. I mean crushing the T11, T12 spinal cord, right where the cord's going to end, crushing it. That's why his legs wouldn't work. But the orthopedic who did surgery, who did what's called a laminectomy of L1 through L5, took all the backs off and said, that's going to solve it, missed it. So I love working with our top-end orthopedics and neurosurgeons and whatnot, but don't tell us we're quacks when your high-end docs miss that. So in our office, we're not quacks. We discovered it, diagnosed it, immediately sent him for surgery. That was Friday. He gets to surgery. On Monday, his wife is happy because he's feeling his toes, he's moving his toes for the first time. So we are considered quacks because the AMA made it that way. Propaganda made it that way. But what we are in our clinic is true primary spine care specialists. And we love to help you diagnose and solve your problem. We currently have patients that come from all over the country and Canada because of our clinical excellence. So if you think that chiropractors are quacks, what you can do down below, you can put your email address and say, I want my free report. 6 questions to ask your chiropractor before you let them work on your discs. We have a report, a free report for you. Put it in the bottom of the comment section. Say, I'd like my free report with your email, and we will go ahead and get you that free report. 6 questions to ask your chiropractor before you let them work on discs. Now, are there some quacks out there? Absolutely. But are there quack medical doctors? Absolutely. Quack massage therapists? Absolutely. Quack dentists? Absolutely. But not everyone is a quack just because they're called chiropractors. You see, in our office, we are at the center of the gap there. We are non-surgical primary spine care doctors of the spine. I want to thank you for tuning in to this episode of Straight Back Talk. I hope we were able to straighten out the whole thought on chiropractors or quacks, give you a little bit more confidence in your chiropractor. Your chiropractor should be taking x-rays, using MRIs, not just reading the report. They should be looking at their own MRIs. 43.6% error rate by just reading the report. So yes, go out there, find an A-plus chiropractor. If you're looking for one, you can't find one, go to drjeffgarofalo.com, drjeffgarofalo.com, and we can help you solve your problem. I'm Dr. Jeff. Have a great day.